We recently sat down with Ron from Precision Sails to talk about light air sailing, which has become one of our favorite types of travel. And in this conversation, we talk all about Spinnakers, asymmetrical Spinnakers, Gennakers, Screechers, you name it, tips, tricks, how to make it easy to sail with light air sails. Let's jump into it. Hope you enjoy.
Let's knock the first thing out of the way, and that's the jargon. People talk Gennaker, Screecher, asymmetrical. What else do you hear? Drifter,
Screechers, drifters.
And then they all, and the conversations get confused. No, that's not this. That's not that. So clear it up for us, would you?
I really wish I could. It's the downwind sails, symmetricals and asymmetrical spinnakers. It is one of those areas of sailing that it's confusing. There's different words for different sails. Just for an example, in Europe, asymmetrical spinnaker, that word doesn't exist. They call them Gennakers. That's where I think we picked up from. In their world, a spinnaker is a symmetrical downwind sail. That's what a spinnaker is, right? So depending on where you are in the country, certain types of boat, catamarans and trimarans, love the word screecher. There are little differences to basically the same types of sails. Is that they're meant for light wind. They don't go dead downwind. They can do some broad reaching, and there's just various degrees of that, depending on cut. Even in getting into the code zeros, there's specific cloth now. Code zero laminates available for the code zeros. Yeah. So unfortunately, I'd love to clear it up for you, but it's a difficult subject.
So I think though, we're really talking about the same umbrella, just nuances on which really cut and fabric and.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I try to coach guys. Let's get rid of the jargon. Let's get rid of all that stuff. What do you currently have for inventory? And what are the holes in your performance that you're trying to fill? There's kind of two categories of these light wind sails. Does it have a solid luff or a free flying luff? So your asymmetrical spinnaker attaches at the head, attaches at the tack, but it doesn't attach anywhere else. So that class those as spinnakers. Code zeros, screechers, Genoas even, they have solid luffs of some sort, right? So in your Genoa, goes on a track, typically on your furler, goes over foil. Code zeros, we quite often embed either a torsion line or a Dyneema line in it, right? And same as screechers. Screechers will have a Dyneema line or some sort of wire stay. And that's what helps them get up into the wind, right? Where your spinnaker has no luff to it, right? So it'll collapse as soon as you start to try to point it, right?
Gotcha. Okay, so talking about sailing, I hear people on the dock, I hear people who have spinnakers, never flown them, and the biggest concern is it's difficult, it's complex. Any tips on making flying the symmetrical or asymmetrical spinnaker simpler or even safer?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, so there's a couple of things out there that make life a little bit easier. The first one is getting a good launch bag, turtle bag. A lot of guys call them turtle bags. We have one out on the market too, but there's lots of them out there. The basic idea is that you can get your spinnaker set with lines attached, halyard attached, and launch it directly out of the bag, and also get it back and put it back into the bag. So when you're looking for turtle bags, make sure it's a good size. Make sure it has some sort of either battens, or you can actually use just 1-inch PVC piping on the top of the bag, so it stays open. Because nice. As your spinnaker is quite huge, it's a lot of material that you got to jam into this bag, right? So the easier you can make it for yourself, and also make sure there's a way to attach it to the boat. So either carabiner clips to go on your lifelines, or some deck bags have like webbing loops underneath, so you can attach it directly to the deck in some places, right? So those help, especially in the smaller boats. That's what I would suggest, is getting a good launch bag. And then the second thing I would look at, the spinnaker socks or snuffers.
Okay.
ATN makes a great one. There's a couple others out there. Oxley Sails actually just came out with one that has an inflatable ring. Nice. Instead of a fiberglass one, which reduces weight and, more importantly, the noise at the top.
I'm thinking easier to stow.
And make it easier to stow. Yeah. So those are amazing. I like those a lot because you can hoist it and get everybody on the boat ready, get your sheets attached, get everything ready to rock and roll, and then point the boat a little bit downwind, and you can raise it and
Nice.
and launch it that way. And then deploying it, getting it back is the tricky part, right? And so the Spinnaker stock really helps with that. My only advice is practice. The thing is big, it's beautiful. It's a little bit, if you're doing it for the first time, you just pick the right days. Fly it in 4 to 8 knots, and make sure that you're ready, and practice with it. Put it up, sail it for a little bit, douse it. Douse it when you can, when it's nice, and then when you have to, it's easier.
Nice,
right?
yeah.
And and good communication with whoever's at the helm and whoever's working the rigging.
Man, this is exciting when you say 4 to 8 knots, because a fully loaded cruising boat, you don't sail in 4 to 8 knots. You need 10 plus.
Yeah.
And so it's just exciting to think I can have almost flat seas and still move. I can't wait.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, from our perspective, we love working with YouTubers and that sort of stuff, especially in the Spinnakers, because you're flying your Spinnaker on these beautiful, sunny, flat, dead calm days in very little wind. You get beautiful photos, you get amazing videos, you get all this stuff of these beautiful sails, because you can walk around the deck, you're not in 6-foot swells, you're not beaten into it. It's beautiful.
Good point. I'm afraid to fly the drone because we're always in 20 knots of wind. Now we're going to be in 8. We can fly the drone, fish, and eat all at the same time.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey, so rigging. We've got the rig set up. We've got a block at the stern, kind of using the cleat at this point. We learned how to use Dyneema.
Perfect.
Shackle here and there.
Yep.
We don't have a bowsprit, and I don't think it's a problem. We're using the bow roller and the forestay. So we have 2 good strong points down there. But what would be the benefit if you had a retractable bowsprit? What's the benefit of moving it out?
The biggest benefit is you can make your sail larger.
Okay.
Right. By extending the J measurement of the boat, when rig specs, we call it a JSP. So the length from the base of the mast to the end of the bowsprit is your JSP. And just do the math, we can make a longer luff length. That sail. So we can make a larger sail. You can also tack the sail back and forth because it's much further ahead of the rig. So you don't have to douse it. Like in your case, I would suggest douse that sail, flop it over to the other side, and relaunch it. Right. Again, beautiful weather. You're good. It's no problem. But yeah, the bowsprit helps with size, helps with tacking it back and forth. There is some benefits in performance. Just if you think about how the sail is pulling the boat forward, especially deeper downwind, you're gonna be pulling the boat up more than pushing the bow down. Right.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there are some benefits of it. But for those of us who are out there cruising, don't think you can't get a Spinnaker on your boat because you don't have one, or it's this massive complicated thing to rig for it. You need a Spinnaker halyard, and I say day one, get yourself 36 inches of webbing or some Dyneema line and a couple of quick shackles, and you can even go underneath your pulpit and just attach the sail. And then step 2 is going as far as what you guys done, put a block up there. Now you can adjust that tack line, and you can play around with the tension on the luff, right? So that's step 2, and then start looking into furlers and bowsprits and all that stuff, right?
So cool that the sail, I mean, even maybe a year and a half ago when we first were talking mainsails, I was thinking, how do you rig a Spinnaker on this boat? It's just so simple. You just tie it on, essentially.
Yeah, you kind of do. Yeah.
Step 1, just tie it on and go, right?
Yeah. And from a design perspective, you got to think about the sail flies on the outside of the rig, where everything else is on the inside. We're hyper focused on, head sail and mainsail measurements, because if we're an inch too long on any of the measurements, you can't tighten the sail, you can't tension it, right? Where the Spinnaker is, it's out there, right? So that's why I think there's a great used market for Spinnakers. Because it doesn't have to be down to the millimeter, right? You can get one that's a little bit too small. You get one that's a little bit too big. Just don't run over it when you're bringing it back. But it's not something that has to be perfect every single time. And I think there's lots of guys out there sailing with sails that are smaller than what they could be, because it's double-handed or single-handed. They don't want 1,400, 1,500 square feet of sail.
Yeah.
So they opt for something a little bit lower and get a little less performance, but easier to handle.
It's cool. It feels a little more artistic. It's more like cooking, grilling than baking, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like that. That's an excellent analogy.
So, hey, one more question about the rigging. How robust really should the rigging be? When I read the Catalina manual for this boat, they spec a Spinnaker at 1/2-inch line, and I bought that. I told a buddy, and he's like, "Whoa, that's pretty heavy." And I was like, "Yeah, it feels pretty heavy." Yeah. So really, what are you thinking in a 40-foot boat? How heavy should these lines be and robust?
Yeah, it's something that we're just getting into. We're now offering lines, sheets, halyards, those types of things, and we're speccing out. For your size boat, probably the 10 mil would probably be sufficient for your boat. I can see what Catalina is kind of leaning towards when they put those manuals out. It's a little cover yourself a little bit. So they're gonna spec a little bit larger, and then you've got to get into what line you're buying, right? So a straight polyester line is almost twice the weight. So a 10 mil polyester line versus a 10 mil Dynamocore line, significant difference in weight, right? So take that into account, because now we're talking about light wind sailing. So weight matters, right? It matters in pretty much everything on your boat, but still, especially when we're talking, 4 to 8 knots of breeze, is the difference between that thing staying open and not, right? Just because your sheets are weighing it down, right? Little stuff like that. But yeah, for your boat in around the 10 mil, you can get into the 12 and 14 for the larger, 50 to 60 footers. But yeah, 8 mil on your 30 footers, 10 mils on your, 35 to 45, in around there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to hear. I do have some lighter lines, so I have that in case.
Yeah. And I would, the place to save it, I think, is on the sheets. Don't put too much concern in the halyards. Why not beef up your halyard, beef up your tack line? Why not? But your sheets is what's really kind of pulling that sail down. Right.
Well, and once you get to 13 millimeter or even 12, the 1/2-inch areas, your blocks are bigger. They don't fit. You got to get it goes up to from a $60 block to a $200 block. It's like, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. And it's, And again, I don't think it doesn't need to be as complicated as what people think it is.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you can get yourself, if you're just getting into downwind sailing, and as that's the greatest sailing. There's a reason why people circumnavigate one direction.
For sure.
We're going to downwind sail for years, right? And having these sails on board make it amazing, right?
Yeah. Hey, any final tips to make the most of it?
Just practice. That's my thing. We all get ourselves into nasty weather, nasty things come up, especially in your part of the world, going over the Bahamas. You're going to have squalls come through. Practice when it's good weather, so that when you have to get it down quickly, it's you got that muscle memory, so you can just make it happen. And everyone kind of knows the order of operations, right? You're not releasing the halyard until that spinnaker sock is all the way down, right?
No, that's true, because once it's getting chaotic, it's easy to hit the wrong clutch and oops.
That's it, right? Yeah, or spend 5 minutes looking for the right one, right? Because you don't do it very often.
Plenty of times.
Mislabeled and forgot to relabel those ones. Yeah.
Well, hey Ron, thank you so much for spending the time on this chat. This has been good. It's going to be a fun sail, and I appreciate you giving your insights for us.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to getting some pictures and some videos back.
I will definitely send some. Hopefully, we have some fair weather next week when we sail, and we'll get some good videos of the Spinnaker.
Awesome. Sounds good. Oh, cool.
Thanks for watching this video. If you're new here, consider subscribing, and if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. We have a lot to share with you in the next few weeks. Our first sail with the Spinnaker, as well as some amazing spear fishing, pushing forward on the thorny path, and living in the remote islands of the Bahamas. See you soon.